Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Can't stand people who move somewhere new and then try to force it to be either A, like it was where they came from, or B, make it what they thought it would be. Our first story is about this very person. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. City folk, come at the farmer. I grew up on a dairy, struggling every day, 365 to help my family live. About 10 years in, the farmer's land next to us has a single house built onto a small plot near the irrigation riser, and a younger family from the city moves in for a quiet life in the country. Over the next year, the cops are at our place a dozen times about smell complaints, noise complaints, work started at 5 a.m., tractors and all, and other complaints about anything this family could think of. Basically trying to get us shut down for existing outside the bounds of their imagined country life. In the winter, my dad would drive our tractor around to all the neighbors' houses on our mile and dig the snow out of their driveways so they could drive to work. A costly and time-consuming endeavor, but one of the main things a farmer can do to gain praise and feel good every day. Well, about 3 weeks into winter, this guy from the new house shows up at our door asking us not to do his driveway so early in the morning because it was waking him up. My dad explained that he had to do it at 5 a.m. because he did it before he started the other chores that took hours. The neighbor insisted he do it later or not at all. That was the last time my dad did his drive. Turns out you have to wake up about 5 a.m. to use your snowblower to dig out your own car if you want to get to work on time. And our second story. You don't own a public street. I live in a recently trendy neighborhood in a beautiful Pacific Northwest city infamous for passive-aggressive whiners and self-entitled snots. My SO at the time, may she rot, and I were on our way home from work and thought we'd stop into a pub about 15 blocks from my house to grab a quick pint before settling in for the night. This neighborhood is, again, a recent hotspot, and plenty of other people had the same idea. Parking was nearly impossible. Not half a block from the pub, though, we spotted an open spot. Or at least we thought it was. The wankers who lived in the house decided to put a traffic cone out to block off their space, disregarding the fact that they had a driveway. Nope. I get out of the car, remove the cone, SO parks the car, we go in and enjoy a nice IPA and a chat. Upon returning to the car, there's a note under her windshield wiper. It begins in large caps. How dare you move our cone? The full-page note proceeds to go on about lack of respect, how we come from other neighborhoods and are ruining their life, and the space is theirs, blah, blah, blah. Be please. I live here too, you presumptuous jerk. Also, it's a public street. Parking is first come, first serve, and further still, it's illegal to put markers in the roadway without city approval. So that cone, no longer will it vex the poor soul trying to find a parking spot in our beautiful neighborhood, which I encourage all to visit. Why? After SO and I laugh heartily at the note whilst reading it aloud in hopes that these self-entitled jerks will hear us openly mock them, I take the cone in my hand, spin around a few times to gain some momentum, and let the damn thing fly upwards onto the roof of the pub. F you and F your cone. And our next story. Former client needs a reality check, not a lake house. A few years ago, worked in social services. I was assigned to help an at-risk mother and her child with meeting their basic needs. Upon meeting the pair, I learned that the mother has a boyfriend she's living with, and she's currently pregnant with boyfriend's baby. This is no problem. My main clients were a mother and child, but of course I will help the boyfriend too. The family was in a tough situation. They'd been squatting in a house formerly owned by the boyfriend's deceased grandmother, but had been taken by the bank. The house did not have any heat or electricity. They ran an extension cord to the neighbor's house to gain lighting and to turn on their oven. Naturally, the neighbor cut the extension cord. My agency had funds to put them up in a hotel for a week so they could stay warm, the boyfriend complained about the hotel the agency booked for them. Evidently, it was not nice enough. The boyfriend and mom did not have jobs and could not get jobs due to not having any form of identification. I helped them get IDs and urged them to find jobs so they could begin to support themselves. Boyfriend says that he already supports them by walking into fast food restaurants and making a scene about how he ordered food earlier in the day that was prepared incorrectly. He said that if he made a big enough deal, he would usually walk out the door with a free burger. My jaw dropped at how backward this guy was. One day, the boyfriend shares that we'll be getting a check for $100,000 from his late grandmother. The boyfriend shares that when he gets the money, he would buy a house on a lake and get custody of his 2 biological kids. They were currently in foster care, so they could all be one happy family. I can understand this desire, but that's not how foster care works, and houses on lakes cost more than $100K. Again, they have no jobs to pay for taxes, bills, etc. I didn't really believe the guy, but was surprised when he shows up a few days later with a legitimate check for the money. This is a life changer for this family. Not many people in their situation come upon funds to give them a leg up like this. The same day, the boyfriend insists that I drive them to a viewing for said house on the lake. Neither boyfriend or mom has a car or valid license. I told the family that I support them obtaining proper housing, but this idea was not feasible, therefore I would not drive them. Boyfriend was pissed. I met up with them after their viewing, and the boyfriend would not talk to me whatsoever. When my time with the family was ending, I prepared them with options for homeless shelters, school contacts for the little girl, pregnancy resources, temp agencies so they could find jobs, local food banks, etc. I also encouraged them to utilize the money they had to find an apartment and pay for a year's rent up front. Many places will not rent if you have no proof of income. Maybe a private landlord would take a year cash up front. This would help them get out of hot water with CPS. Of course, I stressed that they need to get the little girl in school ASAP. I helped them find their school district registration dates, etc. I did what I could in the short time I worked with them. Fast forward 3 months. I meet up with the family for a brief update. We meet at a local park where the family pulls in with a brand new Dodge Charger. They report that they're still homeless, jobless, little girl's not in school, and the mother now has a high-risk pregnancy. But they have a new car. Boyfriend tells me that he has a warrant out for his arrest, so he's going to turn himself in now before the baby comes. Maybe this guy isn't the definition of choosy beggar, but his thinking is so backwards, it blows my mind. I occasionally think about this family and hope they're doing better. This was a wild ride from start to finish. And our last story. Entitled mom thinks she has the right to sell my car. I, 20-year-old female, recently co-signed a car with my stepfather. Yay! The key thing about this car is it's my responsibility. I'm learning to drive in it as my mother, 40-year-old female, was terrified to teach me to drive in her car. It's why we got my car in the first place. Some background info. We got it for $0 down. The payments for both the car and insurance come from my bank account, and I pay for the gas and everything else it needs. I have a full-time job that I'm getting ready to start making $18 an hour at. So now to the story. My mom went to see a movie a good 45 minutes away. I work a night shift, and she said she'd make it back in time to take me to work. That's not how that went. She hit rush hour traffic and got into a standstill. I couldn't call off as I'm 1 week away from being hired on, and I couldn't risk it, so she told me to go ahead and take my car. Once again, I have a permit. I don't have my license. If I'd gotten pulled over, I could have been arrested. The car could have been towed. I'd never driven through town on my own, and I was terrified. In my terror, I did an oops. I grazed my car's butt against a tree. I wasn't doing but 5 miles per hour. I did a heavy sigh as I realized I'd done an oops in my fear and took a deep breath, set my goal, and drove carefully and made sure to leave enough time to get gas if I needed to as well. Cut to after my 12-hour shift. She tells me because I bumped into the tree, I was completely irresponsible and that she forbade me from taking my driving test. And that if I was so scared of my driving test, I have anxiety, I'm on medication for it, that I clearly wasn't ready. When I got pissed off and told her I was 20 and she couldn't forbid me from doing crap when it came to that, and that I couldn't believe I was about to say this, but she was being a major B, she threatened to sell my car. Mind you, she has no power over this. She'd have to give it back to the dealership. But even then, she's put zero money into it. I've only put money into it. And I did that on purpose. This is my car. I'm paying for it. I'm going to be paying for it for the next 5 years. I know she can't sell the car. She told me I was acting like a child. I had a complete breakdown when she told me this. I worked 12 hours overnight and had gotten zero sleep before going in because I was running all over with her, helping her with stuff. When I told her she had no right to do anything with my car, she simply turned her nose up and smugly looked at my stepdad. He very defeatedly said, "You hit a tree." I didn't hit a tree, I rubbed up against it. So after this, she tries to get me to go to a restaurant and act like I'm not falling apart. I felt all the hard work I'd done mentally start to melt away. Suddenly, cutting felt so nice. I had to spend 20 minutes chanting that I had every right to be scared. I have every right to be mad. I have anxiety, and it's normal to be scared of taking your driver's test. It took me an hour, but I got a hold of my boyfriend and told him all of this. He reassured me that I was in the right, that I had to make a judgment call, and that I couldn't lose my job. I told him what my mother said she'd tell him. Guess why your girlfriend can't drive to you any longer? She was so excited when she said it too. And when I told him what she said, I could practically see veins pop from his forehead as he said, "Oh, I hope she asks, because she'll love my answer." I'm the main holder. I'm on the title, loan, and purchase documents. Once I have my license, I can take my stepdad off the documents if I want. And once it's paid off, it'll also be in my name and my name only. Edit. I think it should be mentioned I bumped into a tree in my yard. I wasn't out on the road. I hit it backing out of my empty driveway. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.